All right, so today we're going to cover 2.1, and we're going to start out by talking about percentiles. So we're going to look at this, and we're going to take the start of this, so where do I stand? So how does my height compare with other AP Stats students? So the dot plot below represents a random sample of heights of 20 AP Stats students to the nearest inch. And in that, they gave us a little breakdown there of the n, which is sample size, our mean, our standard deviation, and our 5-number summary, our min, Q1, median, Q3, and max, okay? And they gave us a nice little dot plot. So with this, to start out, what do we need to do to describe the distribution? Well, with that, I'm going to use SOCS. So to describe distribution, you want to use SOCS. Shape, outliers, center, and spread. Remember, your spread is variability, which is referring to your standard deviation. With this, let's look at the shape. So on this dot plot, it seems to be kind of going up, and then a little dip, another peak, and then it kind of goes back down. So with this, overall, it's kind of a symmetric look. However, we have two peaks, so it's bimodal. So for this, for S, it's going to be symmetric and bimodal, meaning there are two peaks in there, right? Okay. So then let's look at outliers. So our outliers, well, what is our equations for that? So in this case, I'm going to write them over here. We have Q1 minus 1.5 times our IQR. And then we have Q3 plus 1.5 times our IQR. Well, what's our IQR? Well, let's look over here. Our IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So we have 70 minus 65.5. So with that, that gives us what? It should give us 4.5. So our IQR is 4.5. All right. Now that we have that value, let's go ahead and work these out to see what our boundary fences are. So our Q1 was 65.5 minus 1.5 times 4.5. So that equals, all right, so let's pull up the calculator here and make sure we got this. So we got 65.5 minus 1.5 times 4.5. So that gives us 58.75. Okay. And then for, I'll change this for a different color for the upper one. Q3 is 70 plus 1.5 times 4.5. So 70 plus 1.5 times 4.5. So 76.75. So that equals 76.75. So now for this first one, the 58.75, anything below that value of 58.75, so I did orange, I'm just going to make it orange, make a line here. Anything below that line is an outlier. And anything above 76.75, so somewhere right in here, is an outlier as well. Well, as you can see, there are two outliers. We have an outlier at our min and our max. So, I'm going to say you have two outliers at our lowest was 56 and 78. All right. Now our center. Use a different color so we don't get too mixed up here. We'll do red. So our center. What do we want to use for the center? If we have symmetric, then we want to use our mean value, right? And since it's already given to us, it's pretty easy, right? So let's just say our mean is our center, since we're symmetric bimodal, our mean, which was 67.45. Okay? But don't just leave it as that. Make sure to put in what it is. It's in inches. They will get you for that on the AP exam. Make sure to say what you got. In which case, where I leave it off of again, my outliers. I should have put inches on these guys as well. So inches for 56, and inches for 78. As you can see, I even forget sometimes. But get it stuck in your head, do that. But you'll have lots of practice. We'll be fine. All right, so now let's do the spread. Our spread is the same thing as your variability. So if we have the variability, and that's the same thing as talking about your standard deviation, as I said, remember? So your standard deviation, which they give us that. Our standard deviation is 4.807 inches. So in other words, with this data, it typically varies by 4.807 inches from the mean, okay? All right, so that takes care of that. Scribe distribution, socks. If you can label socks and set it out just like that, you're all good. Now, let's go with A. So, with 2A, I'm sorry. So Amy is 65 inches tall, okay? And what percentage of heights are less than 65? Well, with that, we're going to talk about this. So 65, right? So she wants 65. She's 65 right there. Well, how many out of 20 are below 65? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 below, right? And there's a total of 20, right? Because our n total is 20. And 4 out of 20 should give us 0.25, or shall we say 25 percentile. So percent, and then I'll say tile. All right. So she's in the 25th percentile, but with that, what percentage of heights are less than 65? 25% of them, right? So she's in the 25th percentile. And what is your height? Well, I'm just going to do this. Normally there's a group activity type setup for it. But my height, I am 73 inches. Okay? And what percentage of heights are less than your height? So 73 inches, so I'm going to say I'm right here. 73 inches. So with those, since there's just me and one more above, There's 2 there. So I know there should be 18 below me, right? So 18 out of 20. And what does that give us? 18 out of 20. Get a decimal there for that one. 0.9, right? So that should give us 0.9. In which case that's 90%. So there's 90%. I say less of us. I mean, less than me. So therefore, I'm in the 90th percentile. Okay. In fact, I'll erase it off of A because it didn't ask what percentile is. I don't know what percentage, so I don't want to get y'all confused with that. But that's just telling me what percentage that I'm at. Okay, or below, I'm sorry, that value. Okay, so now, if we go here a little bit, oh, went too far down. Come on, computer. All right, so number 3 there. The data is also represented in the histogram below. Use histogram to complete the table. Well, as you can see, it's got our frequencies over here on the histogram. Our frequencies here, and then it's got our heights down here. Okay. And it looks like they put it in groups of 5, in which case they did, from 55 to 59, and so forth, going all the way to 79. Our frequencies, so from 55 to 59, there was 1. From 60 to 65, or 60 to 64, I should say, there were 3. From 65 to 69, there were 9. From 70 to 74, there were 6. And then from 75 to 79, there was 1. Now, relative frequency. So in other words, that value over 20, right? So we take 1 over 20. That should give us 5%. Take 3 over 20. That should give us 15%. If we take 9 over 20, that should give us 45%. If we take 6 over 20, that should give us 30%. And again, we had 1 over 20, which gives us 5%. Okay? Now, cumulative relative frequencies mean they add up, right, as you go on. So cumulative relative frequencies, again, we started out with the initial 0 plus 5% is 5%, right? And then you add this 15%, so then this should go up, the cumulative should be 20%. And then with adding 45%, we should get 65%. And adding 30, we should get 95%. And adding up here, the last 5% should give us 100%. Which makes sense, right? We should get 100% of the cumulative relative frequencies to begin. Okay, so now that we got that equal to 100%, let's go ahead and do number 4 here. So it wants us to use the data in the table to create a cumulative relative frequency graph below. So with that, as we always will do, we will always start at 0 for our y-axis, all right? So, and let's go up. It's be kind of hard. We got a small little setup here, but let's go ahead and make this. So that's 0, and then we'll go up to. Let's see. How may I put it in here? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so a little squished together at the end, but we'll try to make it work. Now, what's the other thing we need to do here on the y-axis? We also need to label it, right? So with this, so we have the cumulative, I'm going to say relative, frequency. Okay, so we have that going there. Now let's start out with what we're going to do on our x-axis. And I would say let's make this our heights, right? So I'm going to label that height. And we're going to say that we'll start right here and say this is 55. And then we'll go to 60. 65, we'll go to 70, 75, and I think we got 80 is the biggest number we got there, 80. Alright, could have made those a little bit more gapped, but we'll go there. In fact, let's make it a little more gapped. I don't want it to be too close, it'd be too hard to draw, it's already small enough. Okay, so 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. All right, let's do that. Okay, so to graph this out, let's go ahead and use orange here. And we'll say, let's start at 55, start at 0, right? But then to get up to 60, we changed 5%. All right, and we went to 65 and we changed 20%. So we're gonna go up here to this 20%. And then to get up to 70, we changed up to 65. So we got 65. Somewhere right in there. And then 65 to, I'm sorry, from 70 to 75, we changed it to 95. And then we went from the 75 to 80, went up to 100. So we're going to be sitting right here, leveling off right there at 100. So I'm going to try and connect these dots best I can. Using straight lines as best as I can draw them. So we should get something looking like that. Okay. Now, if we were to use this to answer these questions, let's see, Mr. Gray is 66 inches tall. Estimate and interpret the percentile he is at using the graph. So 66, so we got 60, 65, 66 is somewhere right in here. All right, and so that's going to be coming over here pretty close to right around 25%, right? So it should be in the 25th, and we'll say percentile. And 20 percentile of the group. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 20 percentile. Let me start over. Saying two different things here. So he's 25% percent of the group, 20% of the group is shorter than Mr. Gray. So 20% of the group is shorter than Mr. Gray. Okay. Okay, so B is estimate and interpret the 80th percentile. So 80th percentile, so we're going to look over here. We're going to say there's 80 right here. We're going to try and draw a line over as best as we can. And then we're going to come straight down. Okay. So with that, we have 60, 65 is right here, 70, 75. So it looks like it's maybe about 74, I guess you could say, as far as 74 inches. So we'll say 74 inches is around their corner drawing. So 80% of the group is shorter than 74 inches. 80% of the group is shorter. Oh goodness, I can spell a little bit better. Or I should say right. Shorter than 74 inches. All right, now that should take care of percentiles. Hopefully that understand a little bit better, and see you next time.